A very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Weekly on the West Ham Voice on Monday night. I hope you've all had a pleasant weekend. Let's hope the football didn't ruin it for you. Did we expect anything from Liverpool? Half-heartedly, I think I did. Maybe my head has been bashed against the wall a few too many times, but it was a disappointing result because the scoreline didn't really reflect the game. And I'll talk about the game a bit later on in the show. Because the first thing I'm going to briefly mention before I get into the roundup is, of course, our accounts have been published. As expected, a huge financial debt has been announced. How many of you were actually surprised that we were over £100 million in debt? I don't think I was. I think looking at the numbers over the year, I kind of imagined that maybe the debt was going to be pretty drastic. But £104 million, not great. I guess the mismanagement of this football club is laid bare. And Karen Brady, in order to sort of give us this loss, has had a pay increase. And she's unlikely to be going anywhere soon, despite all the rumours that were knocking around last week. And neither, to be quite honest with you, is David Sullivan. Look, they're not going. I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about the debt that we have, because there's been a suggestion that the debt is not only 104 million, it's way more than that. And I'm going to try and get to the bottom of that. And I've looked at some brief stats, some brief details to figure out why people think it's nearer 300 million than really is 104 million. So I'll talk about that later on in the show. But with the results over the weekend, it ensured that that we don't drift any further away from the clubs above us. Thankfully, both Spurs and Nottingham Forest lost as well as we did. So it's kind of as you were down at the bottom. Well, I'm going to come to that as well a little later on. But let me start off with a quick roundup. I'll get that out of the way so that we can talk about not so much the more important stuff, but get this out of the way so we can go into the actual game and our debt in a bit more detail. Let's start off with the women's team. Now, I said last week that the women's team lost 2-1 in a league game against Brighton. I was wrong, and thank you for correcting me on that. In fact, it was the FA Cup, so they're out of the FA Cup. That's what the game that they lost last week. There's an international break now, so no women's team football to talk about until the 18th of March. The Academy have had a bit of a mixed weekend. The under-18s suffered their second defeat in a row when they lost 3-2 away to Crystal Palace. Look, we were 3 goals down. We were a goal down after 6 minutes, and within 38 minutes, we were 3-0 down. Really quite surprising, to be quite honest with you. But we put in a great fight back. We pulled 2 goals back, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough to get any points from the game. We still remain 6th in the under-18s Premier League, and we face Man United away this coming Wednesday. The under-21s were in league action at the weekend with an impressive 3-1 win away at Leeds United. After missing a penalty, Josh Ajala made amends and found the score, the back of the net on the 63rd minute. Leeds levelled, but we pressed on with goals from Ryan Battram and Preston Fearon to seal the 3-1 win. Impressive win for the under-21s. Our next game for the under-21s is this coming Friday against Derby County. Now, we sit 8th in the league and poised to qualify for the under-21s playoffs. They do a playoff, don't they, at the end of the season. And by the way, news has finally come about. The Cup final tickets, the National League Cup final tickets have been announced. West Ham United have been allocated a generous 1,250 tickets for the final against Boreham Wood, which is on the 17th of March at 7 p.m. at the Boreham Wood Stadium. Now, if you want to go, if you're a season ticket holder, then you can apply for a ballot. All the 1,250 tickets are on a ballot. So you can apply to enter the ballot. And if you're lucky enough to get a ticket, then you get it for nothing. But if there are any tickets left over, then they will be made available to the general public, and there'll be a tenner apiece. So who fancies going to Boreham Wood? I'm going to make it. A glory hunter. Why not, indeed? Let's talk about some loans. We've got 9 players out on loan at the moment, and they were in action for their respective loan clubs at the weekend. In the Premier League, of course, James Ward-Prowse made his first top-flight start for Burnley in their 4-3 home defeat against Brentford. In the Championship, George Earthy appeared as a second-half sub in Bristol City's 2-1 home defeat to Watford, for whom former West Ham player Jeremy Ngakia, remember him, scored the late winner. Michael Forbes returned to Northampton Town's starting lineup in League One in the home game against Peterborough United. Kevin Nolan's Cobblers went ahead just before half-time, but were pegged back early in the second half, with Peterborough gaining a 1-1 draw. Caelan Casey was in action for Leyton Orient. He was in the starting 11, and they succumbed to a 3-1 home defeat against Barnsley. Orient now sits 21st in the standings, just above the relegation zone. They travel to 4th place Bradford City on Saturday afternoon. In the National League, Mason Terry and Braintree Town boosted their survival hopes with a rollercoaster 3-2 win at Truro. Braintree and Terry are now 21st in the National League table, 3 points behind Sutton United and Brackley Town. In the same division, Junior Robinson played the final 25 minutes of fourth place Boreham Woods 2-3 defeat at Tamworth. Now, he can't play. I don't know. I haven't actually bothered to look at this. I talked about it last week. Junior Robinson is on loan at Boreham Wood. Can he play against us in the final? I don't think he can. I don't know if the same rules apply for academy players on loan as they do senior players, that you can't play against your parent club. Anyway, I'll crack on. In Italy, Nicholas Fulkrug was the second half sub for AC Milan in their dramatic 2-0 Serie A win at Cremonese. The German was introduced with 28 minutes to play, and the game was whilst the game was goalless, and he played his part. I don't know what he did exactly because he didn't set the goal up, but he played his part in Milan's second goal, and then they scored twice in the closing stages. Elsewhere, Maxwell Cornet was an unused sub for Genoa in a 2-0 defeat at leaders Inter Milan. In Germany, Callum Marshall started for VfL Bochum, who fell to a 2-1 defeat at Fortuna Düsseldorf. The Northern Ireland international was withdrawn after 62 minutes, with his side trailing by 2 goals. In Hungary, Christian Hegyi kept goal for MTK Budapest in their 2-2 draw at Debrecen. And as I'm sure you all know, Edson Alvarez underwent a knee surgery. No, he didn't. He underwent an ankle surgery in February and therefore missed Fenerbahce's 2-2 draw at Antalyaspor. I can't pronounce them, in the Turkish Super League. And it's 50-50 whether he's going to make the World Cup or not. Right, that was a quick fire round, wasn't it? So before I go into the game, I've got 114 comments, so I might as well crack on with those, shall I? Let's scroll all the way to the top. Good evening to you, Stephen. I hope you're well. Stephen with a question. How much do we get for Fernandes and Bowen in the summer still? Well, it depends on whether we go down or not. That will make a huge difference on the price of every player. Let's say, for argument's sake, we go down. I still think we can command a good 35, 40 million for Fernandes and at least 30 million for Bowen. If we stay up, I can't see them both going, but I'll explain why later on in the show. Daniela, sorry, this is crap. I've seen 4 clubs instead in Bowen, and those 4 instead in 4 other players. Please didn't understand. Social media, AI crap. I've seen clubs said to look at Bowen and thought clubs all said to be looking at a dozen other players. So Man United. So what we've heard is Man United are apparently interested in both Fernandes and Bowen. If Man United come knocking on the door, you charge them as much as you can. But I don't think we're going to sell all our players, despite all this rubbish about we're absolutely broke and we're 300 million in debt. I will explain the 300 million in debt a little later on. Foxes, from what I've seen, isn't the situation as bad as it can get? I think it is probably as bad as it can get, but people are suggesting that it's even worse. And I've tried to understand the figures, and I'll offer my explanation later. So hold on for that. And if they can't balance the books, we go into liquidation. There you go. and then the government bail them out. Will they bail us out? I don't think they'll bail us out. Michael, good evening to you. Sullivan has ruined this club. Harry, good evening to you. Good evening. I hope you're well, mate. Good evening to you. Danny boy, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. Harry, Stel, usual foxes. Daniel, saying hello to everyone. Hello to you, mate. Mr. McLaren, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. And what a weekend. Yes, what a weekend in more ways than one. Stephen, good evening as well to you, mate. Good evening, Mark Pendleton. I hope you're well. And who else have we got here? Everyone is saying hello, which is nice. Let's see if we've got any comments. Stephen again. We need Amanda Stavely and Murdad Gadusi to buy West Ham, take over from David Sullivan and Karen Brady. We need a buyer. I don't think we're going to get a buyer, and even if we do, I don't think David Sullivan is interested in selling. That's the honest truth. It doesn't matter how bad. I know people are saying that if we get relegated, then he'll sell up. I doubt it. I doubt it very much, to be quite honest with you. He'll be one of those. It'd be one of those owners that will be determined to get us back up in the Premier League and point the finger and go, "Look what I've done for you, you lot." I'm here, Ronnie. I hope you're well, mate. Didn't see you at Liverpool. Mind you, our train was delayed. We got there quite late. Well, got there in time, but we got there late. Bonnie, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Stephen with another question. Do you think Staveley will take over from Brady as a new chairperson? No, I don't. It doesn't look like Brady is going anywhere, despite all the rumours, despite me doing 3 shows about it over the course of last week. It looks as if Brady is going nowhere. John, evening to you. Would like to see French connection against Fulham, Areola, Todibo, and Disasi. That's interesting. I'm going to talk a little bit about Fulham coming up. I'm still on the phone to Madam Brady. Lee, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Ray. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Hammerite, good evening to you. Why are we surprised? This was always coming. Now every club knows our debt and desperation. Why would they want to be at Sullivan, at Club Sullivan that targets is avoided going out of business? Well, look, this isn't me protecting the board. Far from it. But let's be realistic. We're not the only football club in the Premier League that's in debt, because there are other clubs who are in massive debt in comparison to us. Ours is not good, but ours is not the worst, ironically. The thing we've got to accept, and I hate it because this is not the way we understand the world. For me, my world is, and I'm sure for many of you, you might have a mortgage, you'll have bills to pay, but you've got the money coming in from your work, etc., hopefully, which will pay those bills, and you might have a bit of debt on a credit card, and that's about as far as it goes. Football is a completely different kettle of fish. You can get into massive debt in football and still keep the lights on. And that's the way Premier League football is. It's on tick. All of Premier League football is on tick. Even Man United are in massive debt. Aston Villa, Tottenham Hotspur, you name them. A lot of clubs in the Premier League are in massive debt. We're no different. I'm not suggesting it makes it okay, because I think our business is run really, really poorly, and I'll explain that later on. But let's not be fooled that we're the only club that's in trouble financially. Good evening to you, Carino. Good evening to you, James. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Good evening to you, Randy. How are you, mate? I'm very well, mate. I hope you are too. I've recovered from I don't feel so downbeat for the 5-2 defeat. I think the 5-2 just didn't reflect the game. And I would have come away from a game like that feeling really, really upset. And I was just a little bit like, oh, well, I'm disappointed that we lost by 5 goals. I think that was a bit crap, but it just didn't feel like a 5-2 game. I don't know what you guys think. Pat, good evening to you. 60,000 people at home games and in debt. Where's all the money gone? Well, I'll try and explain that to you later. Andrew, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Paul, good evening, mate. I knew that we were in trouble financially, and I guess it was around the amount that we were expecting. But saying some sources say it's probably more than nearer 300 million, if that is true. I don't believe it is, and I will explain why I don't believe it is. It will be, if we were in 300 million pound in debt, PSR will be all over us. We'll be dock points, etc., etc. It's just it's not possible. But I'll explain my reasoning. I'm sure there are others that will explain the reason why we are 300 million in debt, but I can't see it. Dark Star, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Mr. Gilby, how are you, mate? Can't see West Ham selling their star players, but players surplus to requirements. Absolutely. If you watch my show this morning, I more or less suggested that. Dark Star, we may have lost 5-2, but with Spurs and Forest losing, nothing has changed except a couple of goals against. Well, one goal against. More. Well, yeah, because the other teams lost. So one goal against worse. Sell Bowen or Fernandes if you have to make a call. Bowen. Absolutely. With the greatest of respect to Jared, it would be Bowen. Haven't the board signed a letter saying they will stump up the money to keep it afloat? Yes, apparently so. I've not seen it. I've read a report about it, but I've not seen it. Basically, if we're really in that much financial trouble, the board will dip into their pockets and add money to the coffers. Upset how much? I don't know. Obsidian, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Steve, hello, mate. I hope you're well. What a mess our beloved club are in. It is a mess. I'm not denying it I don't want to sugarcoat it for 1 second. It is a mess. It's not good. Not good in the slightest to be 100, especially when we made a profit the last year. And let's not forget, and this is why I'm going to explain why I don't believe it's 300 million. Let's not forget that these are the accounts not for the year that's just passed. This is for 24-25. We've had business since then, transfer business, players coming in and players going out, and that's why I'll explain to you why I don't think the debt is anywhere near 300 million. I might be wrong. I'm no accountant, so I might be wrong. Hello, mate. West Ham Mad Stan, how are you? Do we want another season like this one? God, no. Time to go down and get rid of these owners. The thing is, mate, as I've just said, if we get relegated, that won't necessarily mean that they're going. It really won't. It really won't. Andrew, need some positivity injected in my veins. It's coming, I hope. Dark Star, it's 300 mil over the next 3 or so years, though, isn't it? Because the transfers are paid. Exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. You've stolen my thunder, but you've hit the nail on the head. But I'll explain all that later on. Victor, good evening to you. Hold on to your wallets. Season ticket prices will go through the roof next season. Well, here's the interesting thing. Because the predicament we're in, usually you'll start getting notifications coming up in March about renewing season tickets. Are they going to do that, given the predicament we're in the league at this moment in time? Going to be very interesting. Colin, good evening. Do you think if we don't get anything from Fulham, our survival chances could be over? Kind of. Yes, kind of. I sort of didn't feel that against Liverpool because I guess no one expected us to get anything from Liverpool. We're away to Fulham. I don't know how many of us are expecting to get a result at Fulham, a positive one. But, it could be that if we don't get something out of the Fulham game on Wednesday, then maybe the writing might be on the wall. We've been given enough chances, haven't we, over the past few weeks where we've lost the game, but yet the likes of Forest and Spurs have also lost, so it's kind of been all right. This has got to be the game, hasn't it? If we get relegated, Sullivan won't leave. Exactly. Obsidian, who's going down first, West Ham or Sullivan? Burning Sparrow, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Honestly, might be time to sell Bowen. His career here seems to be reaching a natural end. That's a really interesting comment. And hang on to that one. We'll come back to that. Randy, Colin, hope you're well. Everyone's saying hello to each other. 8 Barley, good evening to you. You talked her, Brady. You talked her down with your shows. Of course she listens to these shows. Of course she does. Yeah, right. David, question. Turns out Wiggy is a smidge younger than Karen Brady. Yeah. But unfortunately, Wiggy can't afford all that makeover, mate. All he can afford is those shirts. He can't afford to go and have his, all that. God, she's done a lot of work, isn't she? West Ham Mad Stan. After 50 years following West Ham, we have never won the game that gives us success. Yeah, agreed. Pat, if we got 4 wins out of remaining games, do you think it will keep us up? It's possible. It's possible. Apparently, we're targeting 5. 5 wins, apparently, we think is going to be enough. 4 could be, but it really is all dependent on what happens around us. Randy, Andrew, I think she still has an interest, but I'm not 100% sure Joe Lewis wants to sell up or give up control of the club. About Staveley, are you talking about? Is that what you're talking about? Colin, good evening to you all. Wonderful. Good evening to you. Good evening to you, English Yardie. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Ronnie, don't most clubs have assets such as stadium, etc.? Oh, very clever, mate. Yes, they do. Of course, they do. But it's still your operating costs, your running costs. So I guess in a roundabout sort of way, Ronnie, by us not having the stadium, that's doing us a massive favor because our overheads, our expenditure is a lot less than those clubs who own a stadium who have to pay for the ongoing cost of running that stadium. That's all goes in the it basically PSR, or it's going to be replaced by squad cost ratio next season. Basically, it's a balance sheet. So how much are you spending? How much are you bringing in? All the expenditures, player sales, player wages, running cost of the stadium, etc., etc., etc. We're no different. We just happen to have a much lower running cost on the stadium because we don't own it. So yes, other clubs have got assets, but in a roundabout weird sort of way, us not owning the stadium's probably done us a favour with all our costs. Sorry, Stel, but 105 million, dabble a bit, is nothing in football terms, and it could easily be turned around in the season. I actually agree. It's bad, but I actually agree with you because, and I'll explain how we can come around that later on in the show. But you're not wrong, dabble a bit. You're not wrong, Johnny. It's John from Nottingham. Hello, mate. I hope you're well. Hope you're okay. We are rubbish, mate. We got Man City away on Wednesday, and you take over us. Yeah, we've only got Fulham, and we're meant to win that. You know what will happen? You know what will happen, John? You'll beat City, we'll lose against Fulham, is what will probably happen. Did I say that out loud? Sty, good evening, mate. I hope all is well with you. Ronnie, the game did not kill us, and funny enough, we played decent. We actually did. This is the thing. We came away from that game and going, how did they score 5 goals? Well, 3 were deflections, I guess. But apart from that, how did they score 5 goals? Bonnie, this has been coming for a while. We always seem to pay overinflated prices for players out of desperation as we can't entice them to join under normal circumstances due to our non-progressive plans. Again, another hit the nail on the head. We seem to forget how shit we are at our transfer business, and we really are. We're terrible. We buy high, we sell low, and that was going to catch up with us. And again, if you watch my show on this morning, it's exactly what I said. This goes back to the Pellegrini days, when we were paying 45 million for Hilaire, who I still to this very day still think he was one of our best strikers that we let go of. But having said that, 45 million for Hilaire, 40 million for Anderson. And then we end up selling Hilaire for half the money. And Anderson literally went for about 2 mil, if that. Andrew, I can't believe Sullivan, Tripp, Smith, and Kretinsky will allow us to go under. It makes it won't. It makes no sense. And they will dip them, all shareholders, if they believe that they need to fund, finance the club, they will do that. They've already, as someone alluded to earlier on, they've already suggested that that's what they may do. Randy, saving grace right now is the results are going for us, but this game is huge. If we beat Fulham while City beat Forest at home and Spurs lose to Palace, we will be out of the bottom 3. And if the results go our way, if those 2 teams lose and we win, we'll be 1 point behind Tottenham Hotspur. Think about it. Think about it. Come on, West Ham. Stalemate, I can tell you after an investigation into Sullivan, all I will say is he won't be around to run the club much longer. Yes, I'm trying to keep my arm's length at that. I alluded to it a little bit last week, and then I got really itchy feet about it. And I'm not going to talk about it because there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm sure you all know. And there's a lot of solicitors' letters flying around at this moment in time. I want to receive one in my post. Thank you very much. Good wake-up call for the club, Garino. Maybe, just maybe, now understand that they have to invest in a professional setup with recruitment and scouting department worthy of its name. Unfortunately, though, every time we think they're going to do that, they just don't let it. They don't allow it to run its course. Steidon was a disaster. We all know that. We got past that. Macaulay, I actually thought Macaulay would be good for us, but as soon as Potter went, we knew sooner or later that Macaulay was going to go. Max Hahn, this young lad, Max Hahn, who's the data guru, data analyst, sort of doing all the recruitment through data. My hopes are pinned on him now. I hope the young lad is a man. I hope the young man is allowed to do his job and identify talent that will basically using the same. Do you remember I did a show some time ago? I did a show talking about this the investment we're making in AI technology about our recruitment process. I hope that's allowed to flourish. That's what I'm really, really hoping for. I hope it's allowed to flourish in order for us to be able to stop spending big on players and doing what Brighton do and other clubs do. You buy for a moderate fee, you nurture these players, and then you sell them for a high price. It self churns. You allow the club transfer business to run itself rather than giving the next manager carte blanche to sign who he wants. And then when that manager goes, the next manager comes in and gets rid of all those players for nothing and then brings his own players in. And then when he goes, he brings his own player. You know, we've got to get away from that never ending cycle. And that's what's done us over, more or less, because of our poor transfer business. John, good evening to you. We need a season ticket in the Championship. Need a season ticket in the Championship. If we get relegated, I'll be renewing my season ticket and getting 46 games a season out of it rather than the 38 that we've got at the moment. Claret and Blue forever. Good evening to you. It's only right Dwarf and Shady Brady put money from their tight-fisted asses into the club. Brady won't put a penny in it, mate. She's not a shareholder in that sense. She's a director, but she doesn't have to invest anything. But him, yeah, absolutely. Kretinsky, him, and all the other shareholders will have to put money in. Who else have we got here? Let's scroll down. Good evening to you, Josh. How are you? I think we're all overreacting to Bowen's form. When the expectation is so high and you know his capabilities, it's easy to think he's past his best when he's not playing well. He's going through a bad patch at this moment in time, that without shadow of a doubt. But the question about whether it might be time to sell Jared Bowen, whether we stay in the Premier League or not, I think it's a valid one. Graham, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Just another wonderful week in the world of West Ham. Well, if we didn't have some drama, we'd all be bullshitless, wouldn't we? Randy, Darkstar, if we do it and the results go for us again, it's a lot to ask for, but it all goes to plan, then we're out of the bottom three, whilst continue to pile pressure on Forest and Spurs. If we manage to get that, imagine the psychological impact on Nottingham Forest and Tottenham Hotspur. If we manage to win our game and those two clubs lose this midweek, psychologically, that will be a huge statement. We've then, it's for us then to start pressing on. I know we'll have Man City after the Fulham game and after the cup game, and it will be back to normal again. But it will give us that. It will give us that little push. Glenn, Traore would struggle to dribble from the side of his mouth, let alone football. Carby, as I commented on your video, this debt is nothing compared to almost all Premier League clubs. I agree. I actually really do. I'm not belittling it. 104 million is a lot of money. Not poo-poo. I'm not saying, everything's all right. But you're absolutely right, Carby. Andrew, Bowen looks like he's lost a bit of pace. Hopefully it's just a fitness issue. It's a strange one. It's a strange one because he had a dip and then he came up, and now again the last few games is a bit of a dip again. 8 Barley, not looked at the accounts, but weren't the interest payments 21 million pounds? Yes, they were. If so, the debt is higher, or we have got a rate of a loan shark. We've got 2 loans, but and they are favourable loan rates. But that 20 million is in the accounts. It's not an extra 20 million that we've got to pay. That's been accounted for. That's part of the 104 million that we're in debt with. Marky boy, owners are all in denial that we could go down. I don't know if they are. Otherwise, we wouldn't have invested the money in the January window. But they're probably shitting their pants more than in denial. Victor, can't Kretinsky get his company Royal Mail to be our new sponsor? That will pump money into the club. Could do. Don't know if he'd want to, but he could do. It's interesting. I don't know. Want Royal Mail on your shirt? I guess if they pay the money, why not? Doesn't matter what you have on your shirt. Andrew, how much would you expect to get for Bowen? 55 million is not realistic. He'll turn 30 at the end of this calendar year, and no, I don't think we'd get 55 for him. Let's scroll down. John, would be nice. We both stay up and Spurs get relegated. They play Oxford. It would be nice, wouldn't it? Mad Stan, do you think the players got away with that scoreline and performance because no one expected us to do anything and got away with it? I do think we were a little unlucky. There were two or three deflections, and how many games have you seen where you see a goal, two or three goals, all deflections? It was just a strange game, Stan. It really was. Um, Garino, Sullivan is always the common denominator when it comes to losing money. How did he make his billions? Well, we know how he made his billions, but you know, he's not a great businessman, is he? Sullivan deluded to value the club at 800 million, Marky Boy. If we go down, it'd be worth 300 max. I think 800 would have been about the going rate when we were at peak. Maybe not now though. Is Macaulay still at Man U? I'm guessing so. Yes, he only just joined them recently, so I'm guessing that he is at Man U. Marky, Sully doesn't know how to run a football club. It's like no other business. He has no vision. He's got an old-fashioned view on how a football club should be run. That's been the problem. Come on, Johan's Hammers. Another season that the Hammers, including owners, are punished fans through poor owners and results. Used to it by now. And you know what? That's a good moment to stop there and talk about the game. So the game itself, look, starting lineup, first of all, no changes to the starting lineup. Exactly the same team that went out the week before. And yeah, fair enough. I guess, some people are saying, well, that's probably the best team that we could put out. I think a lot of people were assuming that Jean-Claire Todibo would end up being in the starting lineup. Nuno resisted. He resisted going with a three at the back. I kind of half thought that he might have done, actually. I kind of thought that this would be the game against the likes of Liverpool. And when you think about the number of goals we conceded and from set pieces, corners and all that sort of stuff, in hindsight, maybe three at the back might have been better. Who knows? But it was the same starting lineup. And boy, oh boy, did we take time to get into the game. Before we even got settled in, after, was it 4 or 5 minutes, they were a goal up. And we were looking around and thinking, where's West Ham? We can see them on the pitch, but they weren't doing much. And it took them quite a while. I think it's after we went 2-0 down that we actually started to play some football. But then we were in the game. And look, the lineup. I had no issue with the lineup. I know a lot of people want to see Wilson starting. We'll talk about Fulham in a minute. But to me, that 4-4-1-1, 4-3-3 formation, I think, is the kind of lineup we all expected. And I had no qualms with it. I didn't have any issues with the lineup. And I'm glad that Todibo wasn't just thrown in there because I think there's going to be changes against Fulham and Todibo and Wilson probably going to be two changes that we may see. But I've already said, our defending was poor. It wasn't great. We had a bit of a relapse, back to the earlier on in the season where we were conceding from set pieces, conceding from corners, etc. That's the bit I found really disappointing. When you look at the way we're sort of marking players and corners and so on, there's a mismatch. There seems to always be a mismatch. Tati Castellanos was trying to do his defending, and he was marking two players in the penalty area. Aaron Wan-Bissaka needed to stay on his post. Maybe he would have cleared maybe the second goal, the header. And there just seems to be a bit of a weird mismatch. We're putting our smaller players on the taller against the taller defenders, etc., and it just didn't seem to work. So we did defend badly. But did we deserve a 5-2 drubbing? No, I really don't think we did. And like I said earlier on, several of those goals were actually deflections. But we played well. After going 2-0 down, we actually started to play well. We had our chances. We had more possession, 51% possession. We had 4 shots on target against Liverpool. And that's not bad. But our poor start let us down. And to go down 1 goal within the first 4 or 5 minutes kind of paved the way for how the first half was going to pan out. A poor Liverpool side, to put 5 past us, kind of meant that we were a lot poorer in the first half. We went at it in the second half, and it showed. Within minutes we were 3. It was 3-1 with a greatly worked out goal for Souček to score. And maybe at that point, maybe at 3-1. That's perhaps when Callum Wilson should have been brought on, because we were on the up. We had the momentum. We were on the up. We were in their faces. And if Nuno had brought Wilson on, then perhaps, we might have got ourselves another goal back. And who knows what could have happened then. But look, we were pressing. We were on the up, but it just didn't happen for us. And then a few lapses. Wan-Bissaka didn't have his greatest game. He's out of position a couple of times. Malik Diouf, I don't think, played exceptionally well. I think he sort of gave the ball away a bit too easily. Jared Bowen, as people have alluded to, looked off the pace. And then, of course, the whole issue with the goalie, Matt Hermansen. People had a go at me when I did my reflection show, saying that I was blaming Mads Hermansen for that defeat. I didn't blame Mads Hermansen for that defeat. I think it was a team. The whole team were to blame. Our defending was poor, but Hermansen to me doesn't give me the confidence that everyone seems to think that he has. I am an Areola fan. I won't deny that. I am biased. I'm an Areola fan, but I haven't seen anything more from Hermansen that suggests that he should have taken over as our number one keeper. Everyone keeps going about his distribution. I tell you now, his distribution was pretty shit on Saturday against Liverpool. It wasn't very good. And ironically, with Areola, that's one of the things that he actually improved on. What's been happening, you see these short goal kicks that are being taken. So passing the ball to Areola in the centre of the 6-yard box, and then that means he can pump it straight up the middle. But I guess he had Pablo to target at the time. So ironically, Areola's distribution kind of was a little bit better, but I don't know. It is what it is. It's going to be interesting to see. Look, that's it for the game. I don't really have any more to say. I think we played well. I think we were unlucky with all the deflections. I think we defended poorly for a lot of our goals. We backed off was it the fourth goal? I think Wan-Bissaka backed off too deep into the 18-yard box, and then I don't know who it was that took the shot, but that was that went in off a deflection. It was just like, how many deflections can you score in one game? We just seemed to have them all at that time. So, am I down about the result? I'm disappointed that we lost by 5-2, but we played well. We had possession. We tried to do well with the possession. We just didn't put away all our chances. We had chances. We really did. We could have put Liverpool under the cosh if we'd have scored one or two of the chances that we had. But anyway, we move on. We move on to Wednesday, because that now becomes the all-encompassing, all-important game. And I think now, look, Fulham are no fools. They beat Spurs pretty easily. I think they're a very good footballing side, and we've got to be careful. We've got to be on our guard. But what we've got to do is we've got to tighten up our defending. And I do foresee changes. I actually do think Todibo will come back into the starting lineup this coming Wednesday. Who for? I don't know. I've got a theory, and I'll explain that in a minute. But I think Todibo will be back into the starting lineup. And I also think that Callum Wilson, I can't understand why Wilson didn't come on. And all I could think of, the only justification I could give for him not playing against Liverpool is he was being saved. The energy was being saved for the game against Fulham. Rightly or wrongly, that's my theory. I could be wrong. But I see Wilson starting. I think he will start up alongside Castellanos on Wednesday, probably in place of Magassa. So we'll lose a defender in order to go 4-4-2. I don't mind that. I think that's absolutely fine. Do I think Hermansen will play? It's 50-50, to be honest with you. But then it's 50-50 on Malik Diouf, Wan-Bissaka, and Jared Bowen. None of them had good games against Liverpool at the weekend. And if any of those players were changed, it wouldn't surprise me. Areola for Hermansen, Skulls for Diouf, Wan-Bissaka, I'll come to him in a minute. And then Bowen, I mean, you wouldn't put Traore in Bowen's place. But Bowen won't get dropped out of those four. But the other three, quite possibly. Now, when it comes to Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I've got a theory. Todibo's coming back into the starting lineup. I'm pretty convinced of it. And Todibo, I think, will line up again alongside Disasi. Someone said about, the French triangle. You got Areola. I don't think Areola will start, but I'd like to see him start. You got Areola, Disasi and Todibo, the French triangle there. And then, if he wants to change things, Nuno can play Mavropanos as a right back in place of Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He'd be more solid, and he's done it before. And that might be a change that we might see this coming Wednesday. Now, it doesn't have the same drive forward as Aaron Wan-Bissaka does, but a more solid right back, there's your possibility. You could have three central defenders on, but only two playing as centre back with Mavropanos playing as a right back. It's possible. It's possible. Will he change the keeper, Nuno? I don't know. I doubt it very much. But I think there will be changes when it comes to the game this coming Wednesday. Let's see what you guys have got to say about that. And before I move on to the all-encompassing, crucial losses of the football club. Let's go down. Daniela. Mad Stan, probably I'm with Stel. I think we get out because Forest can't score and the Spuds are in a mess and they also play each other. Let's talk very briefly about those two clubs. Now, with the greatest of respect, John, the new Nottingham Forest fan, it's got to be, I've got to look after West Ham. But people talked about the new manager bounce with those two clubs. And I suggested, I did a show, I think last week before, when I said, I don't think both clubs are going to get the new manager bounce. And I said, in fact, the new manager bounce is on us because the new assistant manager bounce with Paco Gemes, who's transformed. All right, we've lost our last two games, but who seems to have transformed West Ham United since his arrival in January. And I looked at Igor Tudor. When I look at Igor Tudor and Vitor Pereira, of the two, ironically, I think it's Pereira that's going to succeed because he knows the Premier League. He's done it before. He managed to get Wolves out of relegation scrap before. So he's got pedigree in the Premier League. But then I look at Igor Tudor and I think to myself, I'm not so sure this individual is going to know how to get Tottenham Hotspur out of the predicament that they're in. And I looked at the game, they got that two defeats in a row, and I'm sitting there thinking they're not getting the manager bounce that they were expecting. And in fact, they actually seem to be getting worse than they are getting better. Now, when you look at Nottingham Forest and you think to yourself, Forest can't score at the moment, but they've got good players who can probably turn it on when they have to. Tottenham Hotspur have got a lot of injuries. They've got an untested manager in the Premier League. I know his history, in leagues abroad, in Italy, etc., where he's pulled clubs out of relegation, fight and all that sort of stuff. But he doesn't. Premier League is a completely different kettle of fish to other leagues. We call it the best league in the world, but it's very different to other leagues. It's the pace and the velocity, the way it's being played. Football's being played in the Premier League is very different to European leagues around Europe. So I don't know. I think Vitor Pereira might get Nottingham Forest out of their predicament. I'm not so sure that Tottenham Hotspur and Igor Tudor is going to get them out of their predicament. But anyway, let's move on. Andrew? Randy, my mistake. Andrew, the fact that he's still homegrown and also still has decent goal contributions, despite him not being in great form, will still hold around 50 million for Bowen, you reckon? I don't know, I think that ship may have sailed, but if we do sell him, I'd love to think we'll get that sort of money for him. Ronnie, any money they put will go back with interest anyway. Good evening to you, Hammerette. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Garino, Spurs are cacking themselves more than any other. I think the same. Mark, he must know Traore, not the same player as Wolves days. I don't know what. Do you remember when we were signing Traore and apparently it was all about, you've got to guarantee me game time? And I've always said, no player is guaranteed game time. Doesn't matter what you're signing for, who you're signing with. If you've signed for a manager you played with before, etc., etc. If you're doing it, you'll get game time. If you're not doing it, you're not getting game time. Traore's started to get less and less game time as the games carry on. Now, do I think he'll play a part in? I wonder actually, is he on loan until the end of the season, or have we bought him? Because if he's on loan, he can't play against Fulham, can he? I'm guessing not. I don't think we bought him outright. I think we've loaned him till the end of the season. So I don't think he'll be playing against Fulham this coming weekend. Bowen isn't past his best. It's Sam. He's being told to hug the touchline where he's always been ineffective. Get him more inside between the fullbacks and central defender, and we'll have our Bowen back. Good comment. Ronnie, when's Pablo back? Bowen will get more. When Pablo is back, Bowen will get more joy. And Nuno was asked about Pablo. Pablo's not coming back anytime soon. I think it'll be the end of this month at the earliest if he does. No, he won't be back on Wednesday, mate. Unfortunately not. Mark, Bowen doesn't have the pace of an Alanga, which is what Nuno was hoping for. He's never had pace though. Bowen has never relied on his pace, but he's pretty decent when he is on the move. Marky, funny how managers must have players have. Funny how managers must have players have flopped. Moyes, Calvin Phillips, Lopetegui, Kilman, Nuno, Traore, Potter, and Manson. That's an interesting point, Randy. Another factor that could help us if Forest and Spurs go as far as possible in Europa and Champions League, but realistically, Spurs likely to go out against Atletico than Forest. Yeah. But they are factors they've got to build in their squads. They've got to build in those games as well as the league games. That's not easy to do. We've suffered it when we were in Europe and we were suffering potential relegation under Moyes. We were going through Europe as well. It's not easy to navigate. Garino, Spurs gets relegated. Kuda's got his dream move. That in for anything else would be the funniest thing ever, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? It was only ever Spurs, or whatever it is he said. Hammer it. Royal Mail shirt sponsor will be known as the club that don't deliver. Vonnie thought Brady and Sullivan were going to hang in the Tower of London before getting into so much debt when they first took over. There you go. Who's getting the gallows ready? Andrew Sullivan still living in business era of Arthur Daly. Sad but true. Sad but true. Kevin, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. If we get relegated, the stadium will be worthless. Stadium's worthless anyway. You know, what will happen is we'll pay less rent for the stadium. Andrew, 2 wins at Anfield in the last 52 years. Never expected anything less on Saturday. Sadly. Stuart, get Areola back in between the sticks. Randy, we can forget Liverpool pretty quickly as long as we beat Fulham. With Man City and Villa coming up, we have to hope for 4 to 6 points in these 3 games, but Fulham has to be the key fixture. I agree. Look, bit like Liverpool, Man City, what are we going to get from that? Let's hope we can get at least the draw. But Villa, that's another game I'm targeting for us to get a win. Call me deluded. Why not? But that is the game. Fulham and Villa, if we can get 6 points out of those 2 games, Marky boy, Fulham playing well. I can see a draw maximum. Let's stop being delusional. We may have expected to beat them in previous seasons, but not now. But never say never, because we have been playing well. We had spells in the game against Liverpool. Even though we didn't play, even though we didn't win, we still had good spells. We can do it. They won't be rubbing their hands with glee to be facing us on Wednesday. Jackie, was at the game. We were good, but early goal killed us. And wow, our fans were amazing, as they always are. Let's talk a little bit about the fans, because I know right in front of me there was a bit of trouble with stewards. And apparently what was happening is that they were hitting hard on fans with the No More BS banners and T-shirts and all that sort of stuff. And I hope that's not true, but people have reported it, indicating that the stewards at Liverpool were heavy-handed, and can only be because the club must have asked them to do that. That's a real shame. Especially with their fans, Spirit of Shankly, or the protests that they've done in the past. I guess they should have, or maybe could have allowed us that freedom to protest. There were the protests, the 15 minutes, the red cards being held up, etc. But it's such a shame. And there was one story about a young lad being asked to not strip search, but sort of be asked to show, and he had a No More BS shirt on. And he was asked to take it off, and apparently he had to turn it round in the end, so you couldn't see it. How sad that is! How really sad that is, because fans have a right to protest, especially if it's done peacefully and legally. They have a right, and it's a real shame to have heard that Liverpool apparently sort of came down hard on the protests. And that could have only been at the behest of Sullivan asking them to do that. What a shame. What a shame. Randy, Marky boy, Fulham are playing well, but at the same time, we still need points. And the best opportunity to get a win is Wednesday. It'll be tough, but it's not impossible. And I think we were really unlucky not to get a point out of them when we played them at home. Now, another reason why I think Scarles might start this coming Wednesday is, if you remember, it was Scarles' error that led to Fulham's win when they played us at home a few months back. And maybe Scarles will be given a chance to revenge that and start the game on Wednesday. We haven't beaten anyone of note this season, maybe only a resurgent Sunderland. Yeah, but you can only beat who you can only try and beat who you're up against. I think Wednesday is a big I think it's a big challenge for us, and if we can get through that, that will give us a whole load of confidence. Marky boy, talk about possession or XG as much as you want. They don't win games. Yeah, I know our XG was higher, but you're absolutely right. We don't win games with that. Randy. Andrew, in the top 12, we beat Sunderland. They're not as good as away, but Fulham has to be the fixture we can win. If we show the right intent, get 3 points at whatever cost. Darkstar, he makes every West Ham fan nervous and the defenders. Andrew 778, Hermanson makes me nervous, and Darkstar replied to that. Andrew, cannot see how we win 5 out of the next 10 games. I just can't see it. But this is the beauty of football, because you're not expecting it. And one of the things is we've got to win one of our big games against a big team. We've got to beat either Aston Villa or Arsenal or Man City, etc. We're going to have to win one of those games. And who knows? Who knows? Let's see. Neil, good evening to you. I'm still approaching things with a view that we're still more likely to go down and stay up. Honestly, can be shite. Honesty can be shite. Who else have we got here? Andrew, totally agree. I don't know what Andrew said, but yeah, I agree with you as well. Let's scroll down. Hammerette, Stel, will Boss Sports be our sponsor if we're in the chat? They've only got a 1-year deal. I don't know who's coming in next afterwards, but no, my understanding is, but I think, is it the end of this season or the end of next season that sponsorship can't be done by betting companies anyway? I've got a feeling it's the end of this season. Marky boy, we ain't beating Fulham, Everton or Newcastle. We are beating Fulham, Everton and Newcastle. They're the 3 of the 5 wins that we need to get. Fred, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I'm not even talking about staying up until we're out of the bottom 3. We'll start talking about it on Thursday morning then, Fred, after we get out of the bottom 3. Good evening, Trudge. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Neil, it's crap, HH, but I tend to agree. Avoiding the drop this season seems to be just kicking the can down the road. It kind of will be feeling that, especially given, well, instead I'm going to talk about the finances about half an hour ago, didn't I? But I haven't started doing that just yet. Glenn, apart from City and Arsenal, the other 8 fixtures are winnable, so I think we can get 4 or even 5. Keep the faith. Absolutely. Dark Star, I think we can beat Newcastle. They aren't playing all that great. Yeah, I don't know why not. I think we can beat them. Why not? Limpet, good evening to you. Let Bowen go to a Champions League team on loan for a season. He deserves it. No. What you mean? If we go down, let him go out on loan for a season? I think we will have to sell him if we go down. I don't want him to go on loan. Andrew, I was looking at all those fixtures. Would you trust us to win all of them? Not all of them, but we'll win some. Talking Hammers, good evening to you. Us staying up and Spurs going down could have a parade for that short parade. I'll be partying for a week, mate. Kevin, still, what is the point of staying up this season and being worse next season? But we don't know we're going to be worse next season. David, you're going, mate. You're going, mate. I don't know what you mean. I guess what you mean is you're going down. Who do you support? So at least tell us who you support if you want to come and hound us on the West Ham channel. Glenn, let's hope Traore is on loan and we can put a footballer on the bench against Fulham. I am pretty certain that Traore is on loan, so he can't play against Fulham this weekend. This coming Wednesday. Owners are not allowed Obsidian to loan club money anymore. They can only invest, not loan. You're absolutely right. If they could still loan, Sully would have done it, so he gets the interest and not the banks. Yeah, you're absolutely right there. Pete, do you think Ajala deserves a place in the squad? Surely worth a try and don't need 5 defenders on the bench. Why not? Why not? Even if he doesn't actually get game time, having him on the bench. He was on the bench a couple of weeks ago, so well, that was for the cup game. He might be on the bench then for the cup game against Brentford this next Monday. So yes, he does deserve a chance on the bench for a league game. Why not? Why not? Do I think he'll play? Probably not. Villa are crashing. Newcastle are blowing hot and cold. So with the right tactics, we can pick up points even at these two games, Glenn. Absolutely good point. Randy again. Darren, if you think that Nuno wanted Traore at Forest and they did not get him since coming to us, Traore has not convinced us fans or Nuno in justification of the transfer. He has to contribute. I never wanted Traore in the first place, but I'm still hoping he proves us all wrong. WHU forever. My nightmare is that we go down and Millwall come up. Could happen. Fred, we played well against Villa. The difference was their goal scorer. Absolutely. Ronnie, my mate, got kicked out for the small flag at Liverpool, and they were over searching. That is such a shame. Such a shame they were doing that. Claret Blue forever. All the players should put baby oil on their arms. That way the opposition would have to foul us by pulling our shirts, get a lot of free kicks out. Will Traore allow him? Will Traore give everyone else the baby oil that he has? Hammer it. Not allowed a simple red piece of card to hold up. Pathetic. Free speech and all that. Dark Star. Millwall could beat Derby's record for the lowest points if they do go up. Good evening to you, Ibrahim. I hope you're well. Neil, if Sullivan that shy at that business, I think more evil. No matter what happens now, he will walk away with a profit. Walk away with a profit. He's already walked away with a handsome profit. We are a repeat of Brighton 1997. Ibrahim, I always wondered when all this bad business would catch up on us. Looks like the clear out will be starting. The clear out started. You know, again, I did a show a couple of weeks back about the clear out, about the January clear out. The clear out has already started. We were all wondering why we let so many players go. Now we know the reason why. You know, because of a financial difficulty. Darren, think we could get something against Villa, judging by their performance against Wolves. Bonnie, need John McGinn to still be out injured when we play Wolves, Villa, but with knowing our luck. Hammerette, so if we're selling our best players, if we stay up or not, what's the point of trying to stay in this league with a lesser squad than the one we've been struggling with for a few seasons? Right. Good pointer to start about the whole issue with the £104 million loss, because my theory is this. I don't think we're going to be selling it. Let's say, for argument's sake, we stay up. Okay, let's start from that point that we managed to stay in the Premier League, and all of a sudden we're worrying about the £104 million loss, and everyone thinks that we're going to have to sell all our best players. I don't think that's going to happen. In the show I recorded earlier today on Monday, I suggested that perhaps the business we did in January, in the beginning of the clearing of the decks, will have helped to overcome some of the £104 million debt that we've recorded. Remember this. The £104 million debt was for the 2024-2025 financial year. It isn't for the here and now. So we've done business in the summer of 2025. So all the business we did of buying and selling players last summer, Mohamed Kudus and all that sort of stuff, will come into effect. All the players that we bought and sold in this January window, again, or got loaned out or whatever it be, they're also factors. So remember that. So the 2024-2025 results of 104 million debt is up until the end of last season. So yes, we bought players and yes, we've sold players, but the clear out in January is now much clearer as to why we did it. When everybody was asking, why did we get rid of all these players? The reason is not so much that we got a lot of money for them. We got money for Paqueta, but everybody else was to clear the wage bill, to start bringing the wage bill down quite substantially. So it's been suggested that our losses are not 104 million. They're more likely to be 300 million or more, rather than the 104 million recorded. Well, I don't know. I think I know where that figure has come from, because I read a tweet from that Kieran Maguire put out suggesting that the total losses over the years, not over the year, but over the years, could equal £312 million. And I think this is what people have picked up on. They've looked at that and gone, there's our loss. It's £312 million. That's over the years, not over a year. And this is all related to us owing other clubs £196 million in transfer fees. We buy a player. We buy a player on a 5-year contract and we repay the club we bought him off over those 5 years, 3, 4, 5 years. But and maybe this is where this 300 odd million pound figure is coming from. But however, what Maguire didn't put in his tweet, he failed to put all the money that we're owed for all the players that we've sold. So we've still got money coming in for players like Gianluca Scamacca, players like Said Benrahma, Tilo Kehrer. I think there's still an outstanding payment for Declan Rice, Flynn Downs, Said Benrahma, Mohamed Kudus last summer, Lucas Paqueta in January, Naif Gerd, Luis Guilherme, etc. So yes, we do owe £196 million, which is spread out over the number of years, the contract years that those players have been signed for. But in reverse, we're still owed money for players that we've sold. Now, I'm not going to turn around and go and try and hoodwink you and say that I believe we owed as much as we owe, because of course not. I think the £196 million that Maguire has suggested is probably quite a substantial amount more than what other clubs owe us. Now, I don't have that figure. I will look into it, but I don't have that figure. But that means that £196 million that we owe is going to be cut down from the player sales that we've been. So we're owed money for Kudus, we're owed money for a Gerd, we're owed money for Paqueta, etc., etc., etc. Do you get my drift? So I think what people have done is they've gone, oh, hang on, £104 million debt, £196 million that we owe, £300 million we owe. No, it doesn't work that way, because that £196 million is spread over the years of the contracts that we've signed these players for. And as I've said, what Kieran Maguire didn't put in his tweet is he didn't say how much clubs owe us for the players that we've sold to them. That makes a significant difference. All of a sudden, it's not 196 million plus the 104 million to make it the 300 odd million that's owed. All of a sudden, it's quite substantial. I wish, because I only put this together tonight, and I wish I had the time to actually go into how much we are owed by clubs who have bought players off us. Because I'm sure, look, we sold Kudus. What did we sell Kudus for? I can't remember. Someone help me out. 40, 50 million or whatever it was. We sold Paqueta for 35 million, etc. Of course, that'll be spread out over the years, but that's money that's coming in. Now, Kudus and Paqueta alone, you're already looking at what, between the two of them, 80, 90 million pounds. So the 196 million pounds we owe, you can take 90 million off that straight away. And then there are other clubs owing us money. They're not a lot, but we still owed money for Flynn Downs, Naif Gerd, etc., etc., etc. Do you get my point? It's not going to match the 196 that we owe, but it's going to eat into that 196 million. That's why I don't think we are in as much debt as 300 odd million pounds. And look, we've also got to face reality. It's not as if West Ham United are the only club in the world that has a debt, that owes money to other clubs. There's one thing that we owe. Nikola Vlasic, remember him? Bought by David Moyes and then got rid of like literally 5 minutes later. And he went to he came from a Russian club. Did he go back to No, yes, he came from a Russian club. And at the time, that was when Russian clubs were being embargoed because of the war, etc., in Ukraine. And so I think we owe something like £14 million or something like that. That's part of the 196 million that we owe. But the government said, you're not paying it. You don't deal with these. We're embargoing all those. Maybe one day in the future, we may have to pay it. But that's how this money's made up. This 196 million is made up. So we're not the only. Why did I say that? Went off on a tangent there. But anyway, I'll come back. And we've got to face the reality, as I said, that we're not the only football club that are in debt. Several other clubs like Chelsea, Aston Villa, Spurs are sailing far, far closer to the wind than we are. They're in much deeper debt. I mean, Aston Villa are in absolute trouble with PSR. Absolute trouble with PSR. Chelsea are being investigated. We already know Man City is being investigated. Spurs are sailing close to the wind, etc. That doesn't excuse the fact that we're poorly run. Without a doubt, we are. We are a poorly run football club. I've said it for years. So the transfer business that we've done, it's just caught up with us. How much longer could we go on buying players at a high price and selling them at a low price? We've done it. Moyes came in, and rightly or wrongly, he sold Hilaire for half the money that we bought him for. He literally let Anderson go for nothing. We paid £38 million for him. He literally went for about £2 million in the end. And all that, Skamaka, and even up to the present day, Max Kilman, 40 million. We'll sell him, but we no way are we going to get our money back for him. So what we're going to do now, when it comes to the end of the season, as I said, scenario, we stay up, and everyone's worrying that we're going to get rid of Fernandes, we're going to get rid of Bowen, etc., etc. But what we're going to do first and foremost is the Deadwood, who are already out, 1 foot out of the club already. Nicholas Fulkrug, James Ward-Prowse, Maxwell Cornet, Edson Alvarez. They're already out on loan. And by hook or by crook, of course, you've got to find a buyer for them. But by hook or by crook, those players alone, excuse me, could fetch up to around £50 million. Nicholas Fulkrug, £5 or £6 million. James Ward-Prowse, maybe 15 million. Edson Alvarez, maybe 20, 25 million. Max Cornet, 6, 7, 8 million. Soon, it builds up. You could get maybe 40, 50 million pounds for those players alone. But added to that, the salaries that we're going to save, these are some of the highest earners. Fulkrug, about 120 grand a week. James Ward-Prowse, 115 grand a week. Excuse me. Maxwell Cornet, 70, 75 grand a week. Edson Alvarez, 100 grand a week. When you put all these wages together, not only are you going to get money back, say roughly 40 million pounds for selling them for next to nothing, because we're not getting our money back on them. You add the salaries, circa 20, 21, 22 million pounds a year on savings. All of a sudden, you've gone from 40, 45 million to 60, 70, 80 million. You see how it eats away into the 104 million pounds that we currently owe on paper. Now, of course, you're going to immediately say, well, hang on a minute, Stel, you've got to replace all these players. Oh, no, we don't. Nicholas Fulkrug, James Ward-Prowse, Maxwell Cornet and Edson Alvarez are currently not in the first team. They're all out on loan. Are we going to miss them? If there's one that we might miss, maybe Edson Alvarez, maybe. But Fulkrug, Ward-Prowse, Maxwell Cornet, no, we don't have to replace them. We've already started replacing players. Yes, we need a bigger squad, but our business, our clear out has started already. It started in January. If we stay up, I think we're going to be able to keep the likes of Fernandes, Somerville, Todibo. I think we'll end up keeping them because what we'll do is there'll be a push to get rid of the players that are peripheral to this club. Yes, it's not going to be easy. These aren't players that can easily be sold. But I reckon the likes of Fulkrug will end up back at Bundesliga. We may get rid of him for 10 million. He'll be gone. 10, 12 million, he'll be gone. Maxwell Cornet, we'll probably just let him go for nothing. I think is he at the end of his contract this season? I can't remember. I think he might well be. James Ward-Prowse will let go for next to nothing. 10, 15 million pounds. Edson Alvarez, once he gets over his injury and he'll be back fit again, Ajax, 15, 20 million pounds. Do you see what I mean? Not only will we get rid of them for a few quid, but also getting rid of their wages also helps with bringing down the overall costs. And we don't have to replace these players. And now anyone else we might sell that's in the current squad, absolutely. If we sell Somerville, if we sell Fernandes, if we sell Todibo, then yes, absolutely. We've got to replace them like for like. But I reckon we can get our house in order by shifting more of the deadwood, which makes it life easier for keeping some of our best players. This is all on the proviso, of course, that we stay up. Because if we go down, then it's a wholesale, it's a completely different kettle of fish. All of a sudden, we're going to have to sell the Somervilles, the Todibos, the Fernandeses, the Bowens, and so on. This is if we stay up. So it's bad because we are in debt, especially given that we were in profit the year before that. But we're not the only club. But that doesn't make it a reasonable excuse to be in debt. So don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting for a moment that it's all okay. But then we get on to Jared Bowen. Now, I was asked earlier on, how much do you think we get for Fernandes and Jared Bowen if the likes of Man United came in? Honestly, if we go down, I reckon for the two of them, you're going to be looking at maybe 60, 70 million for both of them, which is a effing bargain. If we stay up, I don't think we're going to get rid of Matthias Fernandes. I think the likes of Fernandes, Todibo, Somerville, they're the players that we're going to build around. They're the ones that we want to keep. But when it comes to Jared Bowen, it goes back to the whole thing about his age. He'll be turning 30 at the end of this calendar year. He's not past his best by a long way. But this might be the opportunity. This might be the year or the summer for West Ham United to really maybe start thinking seriously about Jared Bowen and saying, where is it we want to go with him? What is it we want to do? We could keep him on and it would be right to do so. Fantastic servant. But if we want to cash in on him, it could be the end of the season that we may do that. So if there's a big name that might go, I think it potentially could be Jared Bowen, because you look at all the other players who are quality players that we want to keep. They're all young. They're all in their early mid-20s. Jared Bowen is now getting to 30. How much longer? Someone said earlier on, he doesn't have the pace. He never really never really relied on his pace, but he's going to have less of it as he gets older. Could he be the sort of player that would change his position? Absolutely. I think for me, Jared Bowen, if we keep him, should become the number 10. I think a playmaker in that middle, causing disruption just behind the striker. I think he'd be fantastic at that as he gets older in his career. Instead of hogging the byline, and the irony is, every time I've suggested that Bowen should play more centrally, more as a striker, I've always been told, but he does his best bit of business when he's out on the wing. And now people are saying, well, he hasn't got the pace and he's losing out. Was out on the wing because he has to drop back and defend with Aaron Wan-Bissaka and all that sort of stuff. So we're not getting the best of him. I think Jared Bowen, if we do actually keep Jared Bowen, the best thing that we can do with him is play him as a number 10. And then that way, I might change my mind about whether we sell him or not. But if we do decide to sell him, I think we'll still get about £35 million, maybe pushing 40 for him, despite his age. But if we do sell him, getting 35, 40 plus saving on his wages. He's now the highest paid player at the club. Now that Paqueta's gone, that's another £7 or £8 million a year. So all of a sudden, you're looking at 35, 40 million pounds to sell him, plus another £7 or £8 million in wages saved. You're looking at nearly, 45, 46, 47 million pounds saved. There goes another chunk towards the debt that we have. Yes, of course, though. If Bowen goes, then of course we've got to replace him. But what we will do, we should go out and find ourselves the next Bowen. It cost us £19 million from Hull City. That's what we should do, and then that way we can say, thank you very much for your service. We've got 30, 40 million pound in the bank, and we go and spend half of that on the next big thing that's coming through the Championship or whatever. That's my theory. I could be completely and utterly wrong, but I do not think we're in hock for £300 million. I get it. I get the way it looks. We've already recorded £104 million debt, and I get it. If you look at how much we owe other clubs, 196 million. I get the £300 million figure. Totally understand that, but I just don't think that's the reality, because as I've said, clubs still owe us money, so that'll come off that 196 million. It's a balancing act, isn't it? So there's that. And also, it's over a period of years. It's not this year that if our debtors all came in tomorrow and go, right, we want all that money off you, and contractually we had to do it, of course we'd be in the absolute shit. But then we could do that with other clubs that owe us money. We would turn around and go, right, you got to give us the money you owe us. That's not going to happen. The agreements, the contract's already been drawn up. You sign a player for 5 years, you pay over the 5 years, whatever you've agreed to pay for him, you pay back the club. It may not be 5 years, it may be a 5-year contract, but you pay the club back that you bought him from over 3 years or 4 years or whatever it may be. But the principle's the same. The principle is, we may be on paper owing £196 million, but it's spread over a period of years. And clubs owe us money for players that we've sold to them. That's why I don't think the £300 million is realistic. I get it, but it ain't really, it ain't tangible fact. It's fact. Well, no, I'll take that back. It's fact, but it's not like as if we owe it here and now, if you see what I mean. Anyway, let's see what you've got to say. I've talked an awful lot. Randy, happy. I think he will miss Wednesday's game. Not 100% sure what Marco Silva said. I don't know what Happy said, but Harry Wilson is out. Harry Wilson out is decent for us. Is he out for the game on Wednesday? Is he? He is a decent player. Let's stay up and find out, Andrew, what happens instead of being relegated and knowing what will happen. Hammerette, I missed my season ticket seat for the cup game. Didn't even realise they were on sale. Already no lower seats left. Is it selling? God, my goodness. Message me. I might have a spare ticket. Hammers Green Street. Good evening, mate. How are you? We'll have extra day off of rest over Fulham. Tete was crap second half. Diop in back line. Anderson will probably be back. Wilson injured with 20 minutes to go and was subbed. Oh, well, he was injured. Okay. Robin, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Go for the cup. Go for the cup. It won't happen too many times in the future. Seeing us win twice and third time would be a softer fall into the championship. Imagine that. Imagine we get relegated and we win the cup and we're playing 46 league games and then we're on a European tour as well. Fuck, that would be a party and a half, wouldn't it? Jesus Christ, I'll have to take out a loan just to go at football. Hammerette, Dark Star, huge difference between us and every other Premier League side. Their youngsters come in playing the same system as their first team. We're already in the back foot there, but that's changing. Ironically, we thought Graham Potter would change that for us, didn't we? We thought Potter would, we thought he was going to be the savior for the academy, the development squad, where everything was going to be all uniformed. And I couldn't believe that he didn't. He was more against using youngsters than any other manager we've had. Now, Nuno, though, however, I think he's bringing that closer and closer together. Toha, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Evening, Mark. I went for a spiral. Hi, Harry. You went for a spiral. Dark Star. We've got some good players in the under-21s who I think could do a good job. In maybe the cup. Is this going to be another interesting thing? After the Fulham game, we're going to have got the cup game on the Monday. Does Nuno go strong, or does he go with a similar sort of side that he put out last time round? Randy, I'm not sure, Trudge, but if he's available for Fulham, then as we're paying for him for 6 months, then he can play, as we have an option to get him with another 2 years. I'm confused. I think it's a loan deal. So he can't play. I think I'm pretty sure I read that it was a loan deal rather than a permanent signing. Kudus, thank you. We sold him 50 million. So you get my drift on what I was saying earlier. Darren, I think the youngsters get their chance if we go down. Can see us selling one or two big players like Fernandes, replacing him with an under-21. If we go down, we're selling quite a lot of our players. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Randy, I remember Kieran Maguire saying Chelsea's accounts are worse. They are far worse. They are next to be, them and Aston Villa are the next to be investigated for PSR because wasn't it Chelsea that actually went and said, we think we've fallen foul of PSR, so they're being investigated. I think then by going, oh, it was on the previous owners, nothing to do with us, leave off. You bought the club. You knew what it was all about. You would have looked at the accounts. You would have known exactly what was going on. So you're buying, when you buy a company, you buy a club or whatever, you're not only buying just the club, you're buying the risk that goes with it. So them turning around and going, hey, hands up. Oh, look at us, nice Chelsea. Yeah, I think we fucked up on PSR. That ain't going to wash because you would have known all about it when you bought the club in the first place. Hamret, those accounts don't even include this season's figures or for the huge losses we'll incur for Kilman. Fuck Rug. I remember you loved Fuck Rug, and now look at you dissing him. How dare you? Neil, yes, Del, but how much is still owed on poor transfer deals? And there's our future income already has financed against it. I know the loans that we got out, the payday loans that we got out, it's not good. It isn't good. But that, again, that's all accounted for in the £104 million loss so far. Clubs should have to pay for a player as soon as he signs instead of paying with Klarna. We rely on TV money, and apparently we relied on European money as well. Andrew, Magassa blowing hot and cold so far. Still difficult to see if he will be a success. Yeah, he was it took him a while to get into that game against Liverpool, but then he started, doing well. Good evening to you, Sarah. How are you? Thank you for joining. Who else have we got here? Do forgive me if I don't read out all your comments. I'm trying to get everyone involved. Stephen made a profit in the winter and improved the squad and the wage bill. Trodge, they got 5 times our revenue from sponsors, etc. Plus up a huge squad of talent they can cash in on. Who do you mean? You're not talking about us, are you? Daniela. At weekend, I saw a post that Spurs are in big trouble with what they owe other clubs. Kudus with 56 million. Exactly. All clubs owe money to other clubs for players that they bought. Andrew, we will make another big loss on Kilman. We will. We'll be lucky to get 10 million back from the 40 million. It's 40 million, but I reckon we'll get 20 million for him on the 40, but we'll still be half the money that we spent on him. Mark, SCR, not good for Villa. It won't be good for a lot of clubs. They didn't want it in, some of these clubs, but it is. It's in from next season. Hammer it. Knowing our luck, we get stuck in the Championship and City end up down there competing against us. Yeah, that'll happen. That would happen, wouldn't it? Glenn, whole of the Premier League have got their asses hanging out the back of their trousers with the debt they're in. You're absolutely correct there. Absolutely correct. They're all in hock. They're all relying on the football money. If the football money dries up, they are in absolute deep poo-poo. Good evening to you, Sarah. I hope you're well. Darren, Wilson got subbed on 72 minutes in Fulham's last game and looked injured. Oh, you're talking about their Wilson. I was like, Callum Wilson? Good. He's a good player. I hope he doesn't make it, with the greatest respect. Let's scroll down. Marky. Still, it's all right to say we'll keep these players, but will they want to stay? That's an interesting question. If we stay up, then yes, I think they will. I think they'll see green shoots of something going on with Nuno, because I don't think. Look. I know it's a long shot now, isn't it? But if we stay up and we keep, I think we will keep some of our best players, because the likes of Fernandes, he's been given a new lease of life since Paqueta's left. And Nuno will turn around to him and say, "You are my new main player. You, Somerville, Todibo, etc. These are the players I want to build the squad around." And I think the likes of Fernandes and Somerville, etc., will go, "Let's have it. Let's do it." Neil, 15 million for Ward-Prowse. What will that's what we have pay. Whoever he ends up with, that's what we'll get. Whoever he ends up with, 15 mil. I kind of would take that right now. And again, that's less than half what we paid for him. Smokey Sullivan, if he gets a good offer for any of our better players, he will take it. He's all about his money, then replace them with cheap or freebies. That isn't really true, to be honest with you. It isn't really true. He does allow the managers to, but this is my problem. Neither him or the managers should be making these decisions. We should have a director of football managing this kind of business. That's the problem. We don't have that. I hope Nuno Darkstar is back in goal. You hope Nuno's back in goal and Manson will take us down. I think you meant Areola. Andrew, will be Bowen only because of his age and money we get for him. Charles, good evening to you. Sullivan will take the first offer for them both. If we go down, possibly, but I don't know. We'll see. Hammerit, you've seen the new proposed rules for next season. Outfield players only have 5 seconds for a throw-in, 1 minute off the pitch for going down injured for treatment unless a card is produced. Good. It'll stop all this bullshit that happens, the amount of time wasting that happens in a game. I honestly believe Sullivan will take 30 million for Bowen. I think he'll expect a bit more. Dark Star. I hope Areola back in goal on Wednesday. Hermanson will take us down. Randy, Darren, it's only 3 days. I can't see Harry Wilson recovering that fast over an ankle injury, or maybe he'll be on the bench or miss the game entirely. Daniel, I hope you're well, Daniel. Other clubs in debt didn't sell their home and moved to a rented estate. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. Yeah, okay. And one of the things we were promised, of course, was that we had to move from our stadium because it was financially viable, good business sense. They've really screwed up there, haven't they, Daniel? They really have. Hammer it. Oh, and 10 seconds for a sub to come on. Otherwise, they need to wait till the ball is next out of play. Oh, interesting rules. Good. It'll stop all the pissing around. Hammond Green Street. Fred Lundberg played 26 times at a cost of £500,000 a game. Can't blame Sullivan for that one. Traore is bought for around 2 million. Fair comment there. Fair comment there. Are you sure Sullivan had nothing to do with it? No, it's before his time. By the end of long throws, be the end of long throws as they won't have time to take them. Good. I hate long throws. That's not football, is it? It's handball. It's not football. Who else have we got here? Robin. Newcastle will buy Bowen if they don't change their manager. That's I can see that happening. I can see that happening. Hammer it. Still, those finances include the loans against the training grounds. Yes, it includes everything. That company. I did that in the show that I did this morning. I talked about the loans. Randy, Rob, I think it depends on whether Newcastle will keep Eddie Howe or not. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he will stay for them going into next season. But they need a right winger. He'd do well there, wouldn't he? Andy, good evening, mate. Or good morning to you. I'm very well. Hope you are too. Was well disappointed with the game on Saturday. Shows the goalkeeper was useless with small arms. Smokey. The shit all down to Sullivan and his payday loans. Yeah, that's not great. That's not great. About cup seats, I got my normal seat, block 124. So did I, mate. They made a mistake, didn't they? They sent the wrong email out to all the fans who don't sit in the treble booking lower. The True Culture. How are you? Haven't seen you for a while. The Arsenal Rice 100 million even close. That Arsenal Rice 100 million even close to paying half yet because it seems a lot, but not getting it one time to me is kind of difficult. The club should be receiving based on when you see no club plays the whole amount of money in one go. When did we sell him? 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? So that we're still getting money for the Declan Rice sell. Charles, we're not going down. Tottenham keep the faith. That's what I want to hear. Fred, really suspicious of the timing of debt being leaked. Seems like Sullivan is getting ready to have a fire sale before he sells the club to rinse the last few kids. Well, it weren't a leak. You know, we had to submit our accounts by the end of February. And we did it right at the last moment. It was something like 4 o'clock. I think the time was 4 o'clock on the 28th of February. They had to be submitted, and they kept it for as late as they possibly could. So it weren't leaked. It was like, these are the accounts. John. Sky Sports at the time said Traore to West Ham was a permanent transfer. I guess we're going to find out on Wednesday whether it was or not, because if it's permanent, then he'll be in the squad for the game on Wednesday. Brian, what's Kretinsky's aim in the long term? I've said it a million times. No disrespect to you, Brian, but I've said it a million times. Daniel Kretinsky is an investor. That's all he's ever done. He invests. He invests in companies that will make him money. He's made a fortune out of West Ham. He doesn't need to do a damn thing. He can just sit there and allow, whilst we're still in the Premier League, he could just allow that money to still cut, the dividends to still come in. He's an investor. You know, he's not. We know he's a footballing man because he owns Sparta Prague, but Sparta Prague are his first love. He's an investor, you know, and that's all he is. It was Sparta Prague or Slavia Prague. Someone's going to correct me in a moment. Trudge. Problem is Sullivan haggles for weeks to get our deals paid over 10 years and haggles to get them to pay in lump sums. That is true. That is true. He does. Yeah, he wanted all the money for Declan Rice up front, but then if it came to buying players, he wants to extend it over a 500-year period at £15 a month. Hammond Greenstreet. Anderson went back to the club we bought him from. We hadn't paid the 40 million, so that has to be factored in. We did pay the 40 million. It's contractually agreed. And yes, we did loan him back out, and then they ended up having him for about 2 mil. It was contract. So there's the irony. We paid £38 million for him, and then he went back to them, but we were still paying the 38 million because it was contractually agreed. Hammer it. What was Nuno's clause for if we go down? He can walk away without finishing his contract, but does he get a payout too? Apparently not. Apparently, if we go down, he doesn't get a payout. Trudge, Nuno can be sacked for nothing. So do you think we will want to keep him or replace him with a manager on low wages? I think I would keep him, to be quite honest with you, because let's not forget, he did really well with Wolves when he brought them back up. So he might just go, yeah, I'll give you a year. I'll give you a year. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got here? Harry. Newcastle will move for Carrick. He started up there. He is a Newcastle boy. You're absolutely right there. Yeah, interesting. Maltstar. Hi, Estelle. And all. How much did we get fined for the Chelsea game? 300 grand. We got fined, and they got fined more. Work that one out. They got fined 325 grand. We got fined 300 grand out of the player sent off. How does that work out? You would have thought we would have got fined more, given that we had a player sent off, but no. We got fined less, but we had a player sent off. True culture. Question to you and the fans. What do you all want to see regarding the club? Because the team wasn't letting in much goals at the time of their time in Europe. When winning the trophy seemed better now, though. What's your question, mate? Question to you and the fans. What do you all want to see regarding the club? Because the team wasn't letting in that many goals at the time of their European tour. When winning the trophy seemed better now, though. I sorry, mate, you're gonna have to retype that. I don't quite get what you're asking. Randy, Andrew, it's a typical board appointment. We all know that the only reason we got Nuno was because he was free and Premier League experience, but really Forest sacked him because of the Traore transfer with them. Ronnie, Chelsea had prior taken into consideration. Okay, that's why they got better, fine more. There you go. That's it. I've run out of comments. We've done an hour and 30 minutes talking about finances. How boring can that be? Hammerette, 86 goals conceded that season, wasn't it, when we won that trophy? Oh, yeah. Okay. I think I now get what True Culture was saying. Yeah, it wasn't good. Our goal difference wasn't great that season, even though we did win a trophy. Right. I'm going to stop unless you want me to talk about anything else in particular. But I'm not going to give you a chance to do that because that means I can sit with the missus for the next half an hour before I go to bed. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. I hope it made sense what I said about the whole thing about our finances. It makes sense to me, but then maybe I think in a different way. I don't know, but I don't think we're in 300 million in debt. I really don't. I don't understand that. I get where that figure might be coming from, like I said, but I don't think that's the reality. But thank you all for watching. Thank you all for getting involved, as you always do. It's wonderful that you always get involved. I'm getting close to 10th. I'm getting rather excited. I should have said this right at the beginning of the show. And obviously, I always forget because I just go right into it. If you're new to the channel, if you've enjoyed the channel, if you've enjoyed the show, please become a subscriber of the channel. You can just click on this QR code in the top corner there. Subscription is free of charge. If you've enjoyed the show, please hit the like button. Please also hit the hype button because the hype button allows you to promote the channel on my behalf. It gets other people to watch the show. And if you're feeling generous, for $1.99 a month, you can become a member. And for $1.99 a month, I'll give you just a couple of, little short videos in addition. Sometimes you get the team news about 2 hours before the game. Isn't that worth $1.99? But all the money goes to Prostate Cancer UK. So thank you for that, because I've raised something like 700 and odd pounds for that, and that's through you guys, through the membership scheme. So thank you very much. Have a good evening. Have a great week. We'll look forward to Wednesday. I got a good feeling. And it's not far for me to go now that I've moved. Yes, I live near the Fulham ground. You make of that what you want. Blame my other half for that. Don't blame me. But we'll do a show. I'll do a show maybe tomorrow, a preview about the game, and I'm sure I'll be putting up videos of all the goals that we're scoring. So 3, 4, 5 videos on Wednesday night when we beat Fulham 5-0. There you are. I am dreaming now. Now I'm talking bollocks. So it's better for me to go. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening, and I will see you all very soon.